happy friends! Happy Thursday! It's Tutorial Thursday. Every Thursday I like to bring you a fun card project where I create the step-by-step instructions for you. We go through the whole thing and put together a fun card. And I also love to create a tutorial that you can print. I don't know about you, but I like to follow along, and sometimes I like to follow the directions. And so every week I have a printable PDF for you on my blog that you can print. It's got the supply list, your shopping list I like to call it, and it's got all the measurements that you need so you don't have to worry about writing them down on the video, along with the step-by-step instructions and a photo of each project. So let's get started. Today we're going to use one of the new suites in our 2025 annual Stampin' Up! Catalog. I love showing suites, and they are just a great way if you don't want to think about what goes with what. Our suites are awesome because you know the paper, the embellishments, the stamp set and dies, they all go together, so you're gonna make something beautiful with all of those pieces. So let's get started with today's suite project. So the suite that we are going to be sharing today in today's card is the Floral in Bloom suite. This is from page 40 and 41 of the new annual catalog. Look at all of that inspiration on one page, right? One page spread. I love this because you have so many options to do with this. If you go to page 42 and 43, it's going to show you all of the stamp sets and dies individually, and it's also going to show you the DSP. So I'll be using this today. This is the Floral in Bloom's DSP, along with both stamp sets and both die sets because it's just that good. So if you need any of the measurements or anything from today, you can find them on my blog. You can also, there is a link to shop there, and it will take you right to our online store. Okay, so Sweet Blooms, Pretty Florals, I mean, it's just beautiful already, right? So Pretty Florals is the stamp set that we'll be using for, this is my favorite one in here, for this flower. And we've got a couple others as well. The dies are great because they have the silhouette dies that will cut out anything that you stamp here. But there's also some builder dies, so you can create some fun floral die cuts by building them up, and they'll be layered up and beautiful. So that's the Pretty Florals set. The other set is Sweet Blooms, and if you know me, you know I am a sucker for fonts and text and words. I just love them all. And so these are some fun where you can do script and print together, and you can build your words. So you could have, you know, have a lovely day, bloom where you're planted. What we're going to use today is hello lovely. You could do you make me smile lovely, have a blooming day, right? You could do all kinds of things with this. So I love that. And then there are some word die cuts that you can make using these dies in the Sweet Blooms. So I think they're must have and super fun. So that's what we'll be using today. Let me show you our card. So it's also a fun fold that we're going to make today. So we've got hello lovely. We're going to be using some Misty Moonlight ink and some Petunia Pop, and we've just got all kinds of color in here, right? Summer Splash and Garden Green. We've got Shy Shamrock, Misty Moonlight. Of course, we've got some gold bees in there because I just love bees. Look at this beautiful, beautiful DSP. It looks watercolored, stamped beautifully. So we're going to use that on both sides of our fun fold flap there, and we do some stamping inside. So that is today's card. Let me grab our supplies that we are going to be using to make these. We're going to start off by making our card base. So we've got our paper trimmer here. I've got my paper trimmer here. And let's start by making our base, because this is going to be the part that you know, it's super easy, but this is going to be the part that you're going to need to make that beautiful fun fold. So I'm just putting my Summer Splash, probably my favorite in color right now. I love this one from the, let's see, 24 to 26 in colors. So we're just gonna take this and we're gonna score it in half both ways. So 4 1/4 on the short side. We're just gonna score it. So we've got that score line there. We're gonna flip our paper. We're gonna score it again at 5 1/2. And so we've got just those 4 quadrants. You can kind of see them. Can you see the score line? There we go. We've got our 4 quadrants there, right? And so what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna cut one of those quadrants off. So we're gonna cut this quadrant off here. So we're just gonna line this back up. We're gonna take our cutting blade this time. So I'm just lining it up back at that 5 1/2. And then we're gonna go down to 4 1/4 here. And that's where we're going to cut it to. So on your cutting blade, there is a tick mark on the side. And you can actually line that up with the ruler that's on the side. So you know right where to cut to. So you see, I cut all the way to that score line. I just folded that so you could see it a little better. Now we're going to turn this and we're going to do the same thing because we're going to cut that this whole quadrant off here. You could also do this with some snips if that is easier for you. Okay, so I'm just going to line that up at 4 1/4. And we're going to cut all the way down to that 5 1/2 mark. And usually you can kind of feel it. There we go. When it will cut right off. So we're just going to cut that quadrant right off. So far, easy peasy, right? So we can use this for another project. And we'll see right here that this is, we can just kind of fold that so you'll see sort of how our base is gonna look, right? But we need to do a little bit more trimming. So we're gonna go to the 1/2 inch mark on each of this flap here. So we're gonna measure to 1/2 inch. I like to use the right side for this piece. And we're gonna bring this all the way down to that score line there. So you see we've got that. And then we're gonna do the same thing on our other piece. This one I'm just gonna do from the bottom. I'm gonna move that up so you can see there's bottom measuring as well. So I'm just gonna go to the 1/2 inch mark there. And then from the bottom, we're just gonna go up to that score line. Okay, so now you see we have, sort of looks funny right now, but we've got this piece that's gonna fold in. We've got these two that we're gonna cut off. And so for this little part, I find trimming with my snips is a little easier. So you can use your paper trimmer for that, but for these little bitsy ones, I am just going to trim that with my snips. And so these you could use for another project as well if you need to. And then we have now our card base. So I'm just gonna take my bone folder. We're going to burnish these edges so everything is crisp and folded well, right? Crisp and folded well. So now we've got the bones of our card base there. So we're gonna score it in 4, right? To make 4 quadrants, we're gonna take off that first quadrant up here, and then we're just gonna trim 1/2 inch. We're gonna cut 1/2 inch each side of this up to that score line. So we've got our panels there. Now I'm just going to bring in my DSP and we'll start putting some of this together. So let's do our panels here. So we've got this DSP here. We're gonna put it on the outside and the inside when we open this. So we're just adding this with some liquid adhesive, our green glue. Are you on the green glue team? I'm really on the all adhesives team. I think they all have their place. I probably use green glue the most, but I think each one has a great purpose. I love Seal Plus for adhering ribbons. I think it holds really well. I love tear and tape adhesive when you need a good strong hold. Of course, I love Stampin' Dimensionals. That's probably my #2 most used adhesive. There we go. So we've got both of those panels on our flap. Our front of our card, we're going to put this one on. I just love this Misty Moonlight and Secret Sea. I think that's such a pretty combination. Look at that side. That side's pretty too. Oh, we just have to buy 2 packs of every paper so then we can use all the sides, right? Okay, so we're just going to add this. And I think that Secret Sea and Misty Moonlight looks so pretty with Summer Splash. Okay, so now we've got all of our layers adhered to our card base. So now let's do some stamping, and then we're gonna do some fun tricks with adhesive. So let me bring in, I'll set this aside, and I'm gonna bring in some basic white. So I've got basic white scraps and another basic white scrap here. We're going to start off with some Petunia Pop. Do you love Petunia Pop? I love Petunia Pop. All right, let me bring in a piece of grid paper here. You can see I've been stamping, right? So let's do our Petunia Pop first. So I've got Petunia Pop ink. I'm going to bring in my Sweet Blooms here. And we're going to use this lovely, this big lovely word. So I purposely didn't put these on blocks because I wanted to share with you a couple of things. So whenever you have a big photopolymer clear stamp like this and you try to put it on your block, it can sometimes be a different shape, right? Because it might settle like this if you wanted to curve it or whatnot. So I like to lay it flat just like that for a minute before I put it on my block. It's just a little tip because it will let it kind of go into place. And then I'll just take my block and put it right over it so that it picks up that stamp. So we're just going to ink this up. I hope you like that tip. That's really important when you're going to die cut a word, especially because if it gets, you know, kind of curved or anything, then your die cut isn't going to cut it out properly. So I'm just inking this up. I'm just checking to make sure I got ink. Since it's a bigger stamp, you could also flip it over and ink it on its back side, we call it, right? And just kind of put your ink on like that. And then we're just going to stamp this on our scrap. And it's just basic white that I'm using. And we're going to pick that up. Lovely, isn't it lovely? It's so lovely. Okay, so that's one stamping. We'll put Petunia Pop to the side for a second. I'm going to show you how to die cut this word because it's just so pretty to do. We're going to take our scrap here, a basic white. I've got some Misty Moonlight. And then again, we're going to use the Hello from this Sweet Blooms set. So let's find our Hello. It's here on the side. Okay. We'll pull that out, and the same thing. I'm just going to stick that on my page there. And I'm going to let it, sit for a second so it's gotten its shape and pick it up with my block. Then I'll put my scrap there and I'm just going to stamp this all the way to the left. And there we go. You could stamp a few if you need a few, right? And that's our Misty Moonlight. So with this one, you can take your paper trimmer or your snips and you're just going to snip it right after where you stamped to just give you that little bit. You could cut a piece this size, but what I find is it's much easier to stamp it on a little bit bigger piece and then just snip it smaller than trying to get it exactly in that small piece, right? Now we're gonna bring in our inside layer. So this is just basic white. And we're gonna move to our other stamp set, our Pretty Florals. Pretty Florals, isn't that beautiful? So we're gonna use these today along with this stem. So we'll open this up and we'll just go ahead and pull out all 3 of these stamps, and the same thing, we're just gonna lay them on our table here so that they can sort of rest and keep their shape. Then we'll bring in our blocks here and we'll just go ahead and pick up each one. So I love to have lots of blocks. Someone asked me the other day, you know, how many blocks do I need? And I just love to have multiples of each size. So I just have like a little plastic tray that I keep my blocks in. Let me show you. So I just keep my blocks in a tray. You can see I have multiple of each size. I have a couple of those trays, but that way if I'm making a project, I don't have to move my things each time. So we'll just grab some Granny Apple green here. We'll ink up our stem and we're just gonna stamp this on the left side of our inside piece. Then we're gonna use our Petunia Pop again for our flowers. And how I have liked to line this up is to do the details first and then fill it in. So I just inking this up full strength with Petunia Pop. And I'm just lining up, there's these bottom 2 little, it kind of looks like that, right? At the bottom. And so I'm just gonna line those up with this little stem here, and then it will be placed right where I want it on that flower stem. And then this is gonna be the fill-in stamp, right? And so we want to stamp it off so that we get a lighter color when we stamp it. So I'm just gonna ink this up. I'm gonna stamp it off, and then you'll see when I stamp it again, it's gonna give me that lighter color, right? And that's what I want. So ink it up again, stamp it off, then we're just gonna put it right over Love that they're clear and see-through because you can line them up. And there we've got our super cute flower that is all stamped. Okay, so then we'll put this piece on the inside here. So I'm just going to take my liquid glue again. I'm going to add this piece right to the inside. And then I'm going to show you this fun die cut trick to put all of our card front pieces together. Okay, so we've just got that on the inside here. Isn't that lovely? That's the theme of our card today. Okay, so let's set this aside. I'm going to bring in my lovely that we stamped. It really is lovely. And I'm going to use some foam adhesive sheets. They come in a pack like this. They are square foam adhesive and you can die cut through them, which I really love. So it's kind of like making this that we stamped into a sticker that is on foam dimensionals already. So it's like making a dimensional sticker. So we're going to take this, and what I like to do is put my paper over this a little bit and then kind of move it. So you can see I kind of have, this is how I know how to cut how much, right? So you can measure it and do that as well. But I just like to take my adhesive scissors and then I just like to kind of go right on the other side of it and go right and make my cut right through that. So then I'm going to take this, it's sticky on both sides. I'm going to take off one of those sticks. So now it's sticky, right? So foam adhesive sheets. So not the regular adhesive sheets, but the ones that say foam, because you want that dimension for this. And we're just going to stick this right to that piece that we stamped. See that? So now we've kind of put a big old dimensional on the whole piece there, the whole piece. Okay? So I'm going to put these to the side. Let me grab my big boss, my big cut and emboss machine here. So we've got this. Let's unroll it here. And I really wanted you to see this. I've done this a few times and I know you always love it when I do this. So we're going to put this on our plate here. Let me grab my dies. So remember, this is from those Sweet Blooms dies. There is the intricate words, lovely, that we could cut out of paper, right? And you could layer these two up, which is fun. But we're going to take the outer, the bigger, right? The outer layer. And I'm going to grab some Post-it tape. So Post-it tape is kind of not very tacky tape that I like to use to hold my dies. You could use washi tape as well, anything with low tack. And we're just going to line up our die with our stamped image there. So you see I have that all lined up, and then I just put a little bit of my Post-it tape to kind of hold that in place. Then I'll put my plate on top, and we're going to run this through. So you see that foam adhesive sheet goes right through, and then I like to run it right back as well. There we go. We just run that right back through. So then when you take this out, we've got our plates, right? And we're going to take that out, and we've got our die here. And so then we're just going to carefully, I usually like take the tape off and pop this out, take our die off. And there you see, can you see it's kind of like I just carefully going through this, and it's coming out real easy. Just don't want to rip any of those pieces, right? So we've got our extra piece. You could stamp something else there if you wanted. We'll pop out the middle here. And then we have our lovely, and look, it is like already on foam exactly, so you don't have to fight with, you know, cutting up dimensionals or anything. So let's put our card together. I used these dies that are from that Pretty Florals dies. There are these sprigs, lots of sprigs here, there. And that is what I die cut. I just did that ahead for us. So we're gonna take Shy Shamrock one first. We're just gonna add kind of a little dot of adhesive to each of the little leaves. I kind of like them a little bit loose so they don't have to be totally secured down. And then another one with Granny Apple Green. A couple of dots on each of those. That might have been too big of a dot. We'll see. And we'll just go ahead and put that one over that piece. Now we're going to take our lovely, and because it's on that foam adhesive, there's already backing on there. So we just peel that off. And now it's like a big sticker, right, that we stamped. And we'll just kind of line up our lovely where we want it. There we go. And now you see that's got that dimension. Isn't that fun? I love die cutting that foam adhesive. Okay, so then we'll take our hello, and you know, with this leftover foam, you could cut and put that on. You could also just grab some Stampin' Dimensionals. I'll just use those. A couple of those on there. Peel the backs there. And we're just going to put this right over that. So, hello, lovely. Hello, lovely. Wouldn't anyone love to get that? Now, of course, you know, I love bees. I love my little bee trinkets. So I had to use them on this card. So here's our bee trinkets. Aren't they beautiful? So here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to just put a dot of glue where I want my bees. Let's put another one over here. And then I'm going to grab my take your pick tool, and I'm going to use the end that has that little sticky foam. So we're going to take off what was left from the last time I used this. We're going to squeeze up. You can see just a tiny bit comes out. That's all you need. And I'm going to push it down. So I'm going to squish it down. So you see how I kind of have flattened that on there? And that is how I'm going to use for my bees, because look how easy this is. When I stick that down, and you may have to use your finger, but I just grab from the top of a bee. Well, that one just didn't play nice, huh? See, there's too much. You really only need a tiny bit of that to come out. And let me put that bee back. Let's do it again. See how easy that picks it up when there's not much of that putty at the end. And any glue that squishes out will dry clear, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And how easy. I'm loving using that. Once I figured to squish that down, it has worked so much better. If there's too much of that putty, it's hard, right? It just doesn't stick. But now, isn't that beautiful? Hello, lovely. Then we've got our inside. You can write your message, and your recipient will love, love, love getting that card. So that is the Floral Bloom Suite. And again, that's in our annual catalog. If we go to our suites, we've got our Florals in Bloom, and then our lovely, hello, lovely card from today. So I hope you have enjoyed today's video, today's card. I can't wait to see what you do with your projects and your creations. I love seeing all your comments, reading all of them. I respond to each one, and I so appreciate each and every one of you. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.